Like, I just don't feel like me and this deck are like a vibrational match. YouTube family, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ada Rojas. I'm a business coach, and on this channel you're going to find content on business, spirituality, and wellness. I recently started a new series where I'm reviewing all of the Oracle and Tarot decks in my collection, sharing with you my thoughts on everything from the illustration to the deck to the messages, and just my personal experience with the energy of the decks. So in this deck, we are reviewing another Doreen Virtue deck. And this is actually my first tarot card deck. This is the Guardian Angels Tarot card. It's a 78 card deck and guidebook by Doreen Virtue and Radley Valentine. And if you watched my last video where I'm reviewing my Magical Mermaids and Dolphins deck by Doreen Virtue, I already went down the rabbit hole of my thoughts on Doreen Virtue and her work. Thank you guys for the great comments that you left under that video as well. You guys made such great points, and it was just such a great conversation. And I always like to give you guys a backstory on my decks and how I got them, because I am very intentional with my decks. And the backstory on this deck is I've actually had this deck since 2015, and I purchased it in Australia. So I'm trying to think, I want to say that it was in Melbourne. And for those of you that are watching this and you're like, Melbourne, I've never heard of Melbourne. So Melbourne is actually the correct way to pronounce Melbourne, Australia. I worked on a cruise ship for 6 months out of Sydney, Australia, and we had different stops in different parts of Australia, and also like New Caledonia and all these incredible islands in the South Pacific. And obviously I'm not Australian, and so I always thought that the pronunciation of Melbourne was Melbourne, because that's how, you kind of read it. But being in Australia for 6 months is actually Melbourne, so you're welcome. And anyways, I want to say that we stopped in Melbourne for the day, and I was a staff member on the cruise ship, so anytime that we docked somewhere, we did get time to actually go out and explore the area and then come back at a certain time. So I went out and exploring. I think I went out for lunch and to kind of like sightsee, and I stumbled upon a like metaphysical store in Melbourne, and I had my Magical Mermaids and Dolphins Oracle deck with me. I brought it with me on the cruise ship, and I was just kind of checking out this area, and this deck called to me. And for those of you that are not familiar with my story, I had a boyfriend of 2 years who passed in 2012. His passing was definitely the catalyst for my spiritual awakening. I talk more about this on my podcast, Work Your Magic. I'll include the episode link below to share more if you guys want to learn more about my spiritual awakening. And he started to communicate with me immediately after he passed. And so when I saw this deck, I was just becoming more familiar with angels and all of that, and I just felt like I had to have it. So I have not picked this deck up in years, and to be honest, out of all the decks in my collection, this kind of feels like the deck that I have the least connection with, only because when I first got it, I was still kind of very new. Like, the energy of the Magical Mermaids and Dolphins deck, you guys already know. I reviewed it on my channel. But this was like a tarot card deck, which I didn't, obviously it says it on the package, but I didn't realize really the difference between tarot cards and oracle decks until I had this deck. And I didn't know anything about tarot, and this deck just always felt very overwhelming for me. Even though the messages were like good and I could understand them, it just felt like so overwhelming. And since it's been a while since I've used this deck, and now that I have more knowledge on tarot, I'm also curious, like, how would this deck hit now that I have more awareness on tarot? But also at the same time, I just have other tarot decks that I like better. So I really think that it's time for me and this deck to part. So if anyone is actually interested in this deck, leave a comment on this video and I will send it to you. I will literally gift this deck to you. If multiple people comment on this video, I will just do a giveaway and choose someone randomly. But if you're interested in this deck, leave a comment below. You know, I gotta share the love. You know, I'm a sucker for details, so I love the gold on the side of the deck. It's guardian angel, so like the artistry is very like Victorian. It's definitely giving like old lady energy. Like these are the cards that somebody who be having tea parties in their house would use. I don't know, I just feel like this is like not my energy. So that's why I just also feel like I have other decks that I relate to better than this, and I'd rather just use that over these. I don't know, it's just like I just don't feel like me and this deck are like a vibrational match, especially for where I'm at in my journey for sure. I think when I first got this deck, I was definitely like just very curious and trying to figure it out. And since my first deck was from Doreen Virtue, like for me it was a no-brainer to get another deck from her, especially since I enjoyed my Mermaid and Dolphins deck so much. But now that I just understand decks better, it's like, no, you really need to connect to the energy of the deck. You can't just be out here buying any deck like all willy-nilly. And I really feel like I got that lesson from this deck. And maybe that was just the lesson that this deck was supposed to bring me, is you know, how you can really be more intentional about buying your tarot card decks. Because now that I really tap into the energy that I was in when I bought this, I would say that I didn't buy this deck because it like, oh my god, I gotta have this deck. It was like, oh, guardian angels, cool. Like I'm learning more about angels, but also I'm in Australia for this incredible job opportunity and I want like a keepsake of my time here. And so I will say that I definitely bought this deck more from the energy of like, oh, this will be my keepsake and my way to remember my time in Australia. And I just don't think that that was a good enough intention to buy this deck. Like, you know, and I also feel like that's probably why I don't resonate with this deck as much as I thought I would, because I really bought it from a place of this is a keepsake versus like, wow, I feel really connected to this deck. And like, you know, so really important things to keep in mind when you're purchasing decks. Like it can't just be a keepsake. It can't just be like, oh, like I'm learning about angels. Like it has to be like, you have to be more intentional. So with that being said, I'm literally going through the deck to see if there was any cards that stood out to me when I did use this deck. So I'm just gonna pull 3 cards that were like, I just remember like, okay, so let's see. So the 3 cards from this deck that I feel like really spoke to me when I was more actively using this deck are, and I'll go through them with you guys. So the first one is A New Beginning. See, the imagery is just, it just gives like yard sale energy, not for nothing. Like, you know, yeah, it just is definitely giving like, this is an old ass deck. And it was, the copyright is in 2014, which is kind of crazy. You're at the beginning of a wonderful journey. There's no need to have any fear as guardian angels walk beside you every step of the way. You have unique gifts to offer the world if you will just free yourself from that which holds you back. New opportunities will present themselves if you truly believe. This is the moment you've been waiting for. It's a joyful time of new beginnings when you can make bold changes in your life. Like a butterfly flying across a meadow, your dreams are beckoning you to chase after them. Lay down your fears, concerns, or uncertainties and embrace the unending possibilities available to you at this time. An unexpected opportunity may have recently presented itself to you, or one may do so in the very near future. Take this as a sign from heaven and your guardian angels that it's time to finally break free and be the person you've always wanted to be. Don't wait another day to begin your journey along the path of happiness. Additional meanings of this card. All things are possible, childlike wonder, having faith in your inner guidance, releasing anything that holds you back, going after your most heartfelt desires, and loving life. So as if you're familiar with the tarot, you can see that this card is definitely giving the energy of the Fool. So now that I just have more awareness of the actual tarot, I can see the influence of the tarot in the deck, but I just didn't have that awareness before as well. But anyways, when I was working on the cruise ship, this card would come up a lot for me, and my time working on the cruise ship was really interesting because even though it was an incredible opportunity, I had never been on a cruise before I took this job, and I spent a lot of time in solitude there as well. I was away from all my friends and family, and there was just so many ups and downs. I often question if like this was the right decision. I was in a relationship at the time, and like me taking that job really put a huge hindrance on that relationship, and like, you know, not being able to talk to your friends and family and your support system and have access to them really does something to you. And in the moment and at the time, I was really just like, fuck, like what did I do? And every time that I would pull this card, it would just kind of like remind me to like, you know, this is a new beginning. Like, you got to make the most out of this situation, even though it's not necessarily what you thought it was going to be. And what are the gifts in solitude? What are the gifts of you not having access to your friends and family? And I really feel like I dreamt so much. I really had time with myself to get to know myself more on the cruise. And I really was able to get clarity on what I wanted my life to look like after leaving the ship, and like I really kind of came up with a game plan. So I feel like I really harnessed the energy of new beginnings, and this card was just always a reminder for me for that. The next card is Inner Strength, and this card says, you have great courage and kindness. You may not realize how strong and powerful you are, but there's no problem you can't solve. The compassion you so freely give to others must also be given to yourself. Stand strong in your convictions if the right answer to tell someone is no. You've been blessed with the depth of heart and kindness to accomplish anything. There's no challenge you cannot overcome. You may not realize how strong you are, but heaven knows that you possess the gift of gentle strength. Your spiritual nature will always win over other people's negativity. There's no need for you to look back down from your conviction. There's no need for you to back down from your convictions. Although it may be necessary to say no to others in order to be kind to yourself, just relay the information in a compassionate way and all will be well. It isn't enough to be gentle with others. You must also be gentle with yourself. Additional meanings of this card: forgiving and forgetting, empowerment that comes through self-love, personal courage, and tolerance of others. So this card was like so impactful for me whenever I pulled it, and I also pulled this card a lot because working on that ship was really hard. I was the only person of color on my team, and most of the people that I worked with were from like the Midwest and even other parts of the United States where like our cultures were just very different. I mean, the fact alone that they were white and I was a Black Latina woman, we just had like a lot of culture differences. And I remember like my manager, to be even more specific, was just, I mean, it just got to a point that I was like, I don't care that you're my manager. Like, I'm not tolerating this from anybody. I don't care who you are, what you look like, where you come from. It's just no, like absolutely not. And so that job really, this card just always reminded me to stand in my inner strength, and it really allowed me to see how strong I was, not only for like those experiences, but like working on that ship for 6 months was a whole journey, and I really got to see like the strength that I was made of because of that. So it was a nice reminder. And then the last card is Guardian of Abundance. And whenever I would pull this card, I would definitely always be excited because hello, bring on the abundance, sign me up. It says this is a time of great success for you. All your plans are blessed and will move forward perfectly. Unexpected job opportunities arise in the near future. Make sure to accept them. This card indicates that someone with an amazing career is involved in the situation. This is a powerful person with great integrity who enjoys hard work. That person could be you. And by the way, this deck is broken up similar to a tarot card deck. So you have your major arcana, you have then the Minor Arcana that has 4 suites in them, and you have the Suite of Action, the suits, is it suits or suites? I don't know, but the Suit of Action, the Suit of Emotion, the Suite of Action, the Suit of Emotion, the Suite of Thought, the Suit of Abundance. I don't know how it's pronounced, but y'all let me know, the bilingual life. So the Guardian of Abundance says, all your plans are blessed right now. This is a time of great prosperity and success. Finances flow effortlessly and smoothly. Promotions are very positive changes in your job are likely. There may be unexpected career opportunities in the near future. Make sure you accept them. People. Someone whose professional life is soaring or who's at the pinnacle of his or her career. A powerful person who's deserving of this position due to hard work and who displays great integrity. A very experienced person who genuinely knows what's best for everyone involved. Someone willing to offer up advice freely and with a warm heart. Additional meanings of this card. Wise investments, a fair and motivating manager of people, environmental activist, time to retire. So this card definitely gave me the courage to hone in on the fact that when my time was up on the cruise ship, that I wanted to work for myself, because I saw what I was able to do on the cruise. And you know, we were doing live art auctions. We had to like entertain people, inform people, and we had to sell. And I will never forget the day that I sold a $5,000 painting. And I was like, if I can do this for someone else, I can do this for myself. So whenever I would pull that card, it was just like a reminder, like, girl, you can do this. Like, use this time to set intentions, to plan accordingly, so that when you go back home, because I definitely decided after doing that contract that I was not going to do another contract, and that I was going to come home and work for myself. And even though it was like delusional, because I really, like, I had a plan, but I didn't really have a plan, if that makes any sense. Like, I knew that I was going to do like my blogging full time, but like I wasn't in the position to really do blogging full time, because I wasn't making enough money like that, because I was a micro influencer, right? So it was crazy of me and very delulu to be like, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna do blogging full time. But I figured it out. Did I go through a lot of shit? Absolutely. But I figured it out, and here I am. So like, shout out to, you know, 2015 version of me for going all in, and shout out to these cards for giving me exactly what I needed in that time to, you know, believe in myself, believe in my new beginnings, tap into my inner strength, and like step into my abundance. I wouldn't necessarily call, like, the abundance that I thought was gonna step into that time was like cha-ching, cha-ching, but like I did step into abundance, but it wasn't the abundance that I thought. It was more of like the abundance of self-knowledge and like self-worth and my inner strength and my inner power and my light and my gifts and myself. Like, I stepped into the abundance of my own energy and my own being. So yeah, that is my review for this deck. You know, as you can see, like, it's very positive. You can definitely feel the undertones of Doreen in there. You know, she always like references gods and angels in her work for sure. But like, I've definitely outgrown this deck. And like I said, there's just other tarot decks in my collection that I resonate with more. So if you're interested in this deck, leave a comment below. And thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed this, make sure that you subscribe to my channel as I continue to do more reviews on the oracle decks in my collection. I kind of feel like I'm going in order now, because this is the second deck that I've ever purchased. So now I'm trying to think, well, what was the third? I don't know. I might have to make a list and see if I can actually remember the order in which I purchased all of my decks. But anyways, thank you for being here. I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye.